Hey guys, this is Mr. H. I am going to do another video on using the quadratic formula. Now, before I start this one, I need to make sure that you guys understand what we're doing here. Now, this question is asking us to use completing the square to solve this quadratic. Now, I'm hopeful that we can get to completing the square and get enough time to practice completing the square so that everyone is comfortable with it. But in the event that we don't get enough time or we don't get to completing the square, you already know how to use the quadratic formula. So you can still use the quadratic formula to solve this. Now, if you're given a completing the square on the Regents exam, um, you can use completing the square to solve it, just like it'll give you the same answer. But if you don't show completing the square, you're not going to get full credit. But at this point, my goal is to make sure that no matter what kind of quadratic equation we have, you know how to use a quadratic formula. So getting some points is better than getting no points. So having said that, instead of completing the square, and I'm hopeful that we can get to it, we're going to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to jump to my iPad and let's make this a full screen. And the first thing you should see is that I've written the equation up here. And what we're going to do is it's already equal to 0. So I've written it here. I'm writing it here. And now we're going to do the A, B, and C. The A is the leading coefficient of 1. Now, if there was no coefficient there, but you should know that there's a 1 there. The B value is going to be plus 2, and the C value is a negative 24. Again, we're going to always use, when we're doing the quadratic formula, we have to show the people who are grading our exam that we know how to use a quadratic formula. We're putting the B values where they need to go. We're putting the A values where they need to go. And the C value is a negative 24, and that goes in there. Make sure when you plug these numbers in, when you're showing them that you know how to use this quadratic formula, that you put all of the numbers inside parentheses. Always put parentheses there. Now, just like we've done in the other videos, we're going to go and we're going to get the calculator now. And now we're going to store the A values, the A, B, and C value into those particular letters. So we're going to have 1, and we're storing that into A. We're going to put 2, and we're going to store that into B. And then we're going to take a negative 24, and we're going to store that into C. Press enter. Now, just like we've done before, we're going to focus on the b squared minus 4ac part. So let's enter that. So it's b squared minus 4a times c, and then we press enter. So that's 100, and you should know that's a perfect square. But if you don't, we're just going to use menu 23, and then we're just going to look at the exponents. If all of the exponents are even, and they are 2 and 2, that means it's a perfect square. And if it's a perfect square, we can go straight to the calculator and find both of our rational roots. So let's do that. So, but let me enter this, show you how you should be entering it on your graphical organizer. So this is 100, and this is 2 to the second times 5 to the second. Both of the exponents are even, so we know this is a perfect square, which means that our roots are going to be rational. When we take the square root of a perfect square, it's always a rational number. So now we're just going to find what our two roots are. So from here, we go back to the calculator. We're going to enter the quadratic formula. We need a stack fraction. We're going to do a negative b plus the square root of, and remember, since we've already entered the b squared minus 4ac part, we don't have to type that again. We can copy it. Then we have 2a, and then we press enter. And it tells us that our rational root is 4. So we go here, and we say our first answer is 4. And to find the second root, all we're going to do is copy it, and we're going to change the plus to a negative, and then press enter, and it tells us that our second rational root is going to be a negative 6. So I put a negative 6 here. This would be what we need to show. Let's go finish this problem off by entering those two solutions, 4 and then a -6, submit, and it says, nice job. Now, this particular application is not checking whether you use completing the square, whether you use the calculator, whether you use the quadratic formula, whether you factored it. It's not checking that. It's just checking the answers. But if we were doing this on the Regents exam and they said complete the square, and if you weren't comfortable completing the square, just understand that you can use the quadratic formula to get to the same end goal. You won't get full credit because you're not completing the square, but if you get the right roots solutions, you're going to get partial credit. And at the end of the day, we're going for every point that we can get. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, I hope that we can cover completing the square because I want us to get all the points that we can. But if we're not able to get to completing the square, we do know how to use the quadratic formula. And as long as we can do that, we're going to get some of the points. All right, I'm going to stop and post.